So the moment we put out our Poco X2 review, looks like you guys loved it and want to see more content around the phone. So we decided to do a performance comparison of the Poco X2 against the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Now, why did we decide to do this? Is because the Redmi Note 8 Pro actually comes with the MediaTek Helio G90T processor, and it's meant to be a gaming processor and it's meant to be really powerful, despite the fact that the Redmi Note 8 Pro is actually cheaper than the Poco X2. And you know what? We wanted to test out the difference in performance delta. So what we're going to be doing in this video is actually running 3 different benchmarks that we usually do to test our phones, and of course play PUBG for 30 minutes. I'm Ershad from Mr. Phone, and without wasting any more time, let's find out if the Poco X2 can match in performance against the Redmi Note 8 Pro. But before we move on, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever Mr. Phone puts out an awesome new tech video. Okay, so now I have the Poco X2 and the Redmi Note 8 Pro set up for you guys, and I'm going to be running benchmarks on these right now. So let's start off the test by running Geekbench first. But before that, let's take a look at the multitasking carousel to see if anything's running. Let's switch every app off and now quickly start Geekbench. Alright, so now we're done with our first test, which is the Geekbench test, and as you can see, the single core and the multi-core score is higher on the Poco X2 compared to the Redmi Note 8 Pro, which means that the Snapdragon 730G is better at CPU performance compared to the MediaTek Helio G90T. Now let's run our next test, for which again I'm going to be cleaning out the multitasking carousel and the apps in the background, and I'm going to be running the storage benchmark test, which is an indicator of the storage read and write speeds on these phones. Let me run all the benchmarks right now, and yes. So looks like the Redmi Note 8 Pro finished the test first, and that was followed by the Poco X2. And you can see that the sequential write speeds and the read speeds, which are the most important parameters out here, are not much different from each other. So yes, the UFS 2.1 storage is coming in really handy out here. Both are very similar in read and write speeds for sure. Now let's run Antutu, which is our final benchmark, and which should be a little more taxing on both the phones. We actually ran the benchmark twice before, but we're going to be running it once again, so that this is our final third test and third run, which will give us an idea of which one is the best when it comes to Antutu benchmark. Alright, so now our Antutu benchmark has also run, and now you have the scores in front of you. While the Poco X2 did finish the benchmark first, we have the final scores, and you can see that the Redmi Note 8 Pro is ahead. Now, why is it ahead? Primarily because of excellent GPU performance and of course memory performance as well. But when it comes to UX performance, the Poco X2 is definitely better. So this was our finding of all the 3 benchmarks. Now let's get down to our PUBG gameplay test. Alright, so we've started playing PUBG. I'm not really good at it. You can see the FPS counter though. I'm going to be just testing this game. I'm not playing Battleground. I'm going to be playing TDM because I'm more of a Call of Duty person. So let me just do that. But at least you'll get to know what is the default graphics that it can run at. It runs at high, so it can go HD high, and of course you can also enable anti-aliasing. But you know what? For the purpose of this testing, I'm going to be running at smooth and ultra, which will at least give us 40 FPS. So new settings have been there you go, immediately switch to 40 FPS, and I'm going to play Evo Ground FPP. Now you can see over here that a little bit of the UI is cut, but not much because of the notch. But otherwise, let's just quickly jump into the game. I'm going to be playing PUBG on this for 30 minutes and on the Redmi Note 8 Pro as well for 30 minutes. So let's start playing. So we're now 3 minutes in, and looks like the FPS is mostly stable. I'm going to be playing for a little more. So we are now 5 minutes into the game, and as you can see that, the FPS have been fairly stable. Alright, so we are in 20 minutes into the game, and you know what, it's been hovering, the FPS has been hovering between 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and the max it has gone is to 41. Obviously in the end we will get a report of the frame rates. You know what, helping us capture these frame rates is Geekbench, one of the best apps out there. So we're using Geekbench Pro to actually log in all the information for you guys. So do check the link out in the description below. Alright, so we're done with 30 minutes of the game, and now let's move on to the Redmi Note 8 Pro that's behind. Alright, so we're now going to be playing the game on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, and you know what, it can do smooth and extreme graphics unlike the Poco X2. I'm also going to keep anti-aliasing enabled and start the game, and you can see immediately that it's jumped to close to 60 FPS. So let's start the game and play for 30 minutes and find out how this phone can play better than the Poco X2 or not. Alright, so match has started, and I can immediately feel the smoothness, which is much better with 60 FPS on the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Looks like the G90T is definitely a far more resolving processor and more powerful processor than the 730G when it comes to gaming. Considering this is a gaming processor, this could very well be the most powerful mid-range processor out there. So alright, so we're at the fag end of the Redmi Note 8 Pro's gaming session of 30 minutes, and what I've noticed is that there are a lot of frame drops at Smooth Extreme. While it might run at Smooth Extreme, it is not very stable. I think the final Geekbench score should give us an idea of what the frame rate stability looks like. Alright, so we finished 30 minutes, so I'm going to stop it and actually stop the game as well, because this was not about playing the game, but it was about recording the Geekbench metrics, and we're exited right now. So we have Geekbench metrics on both the phones right now, and we're going to be comparing the two and showing you what the comparison was on your screen at the moment. So what you have on your screen right now is the complete gameplay metrics after 30 minutes of gaming, and evidently the Poco X2 lags behind the Redmi Note 8 Pro when it comes to, gameplay graphics quality plus the smoothness as well. You get a maximum FPS of 55 on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, which by the way is not that great considering that it is supposed to run at 60 FPS. The Poco X2 actually maintains the stability, which is the thing about Snapdragon processors, right? You know for a fact that Qualcomm actually tunes the processor well to ensure that FPS stability keeps maintained. Now obviously max FPS wise, the Redmi Note 8 Pro actually does better with 55 max FPS compared to Poco X2, which does 40. However, the FPS stability on MediaTek processors has never been great compared to Snapdragon, which you can see clearly out here. So even if you get lower graphics settings on the Poco X2, the FPS stability is better. Plus the battery level drop is much lower, and the temperature gain is also much lower. It just goes on the Poco X2, it just goes from 31 degrees to 38 degrees, whereas on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, the jump is very steep from 29 degrees to 43 degrees. Actually, the play environment was very similar. Despite that, the temperature gain was much higher on the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Now, overall, the estimated playtime that Geekbench has highlighted and given us is that the Redmi Note 8 Pro will last around 4 hours 33 minutes of gaming, whereas the Poco X2 will last you around 5 hours 59 minutes of gaming. Which means that Snapdragon is better for longer gaming sessions, like if you want to play more, then the Snapdragon 730G on the Poco X2 is better, but the Redmi Note 8 Pro is better when you want to have the smooth, very sweet gameplay. Alright, so that was our full performance comparison of the Poco X2 against the Redmi Note 8 Pro, and what's surprising is that the cheaper Redmi Note 8 Pro actually holds up really well and even beats the Poco X2. So what do you guys think? Do let us know in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Ershad from Mr. Phone signing off. Goodbye and Godspeed, my friends.